Welcome and hello to a new episode of Short Comic Introduction. Today I will introduce you to a comic that, for me personally, pushed a lot of nostalgia buttons. And to understand that, let's talk a little bit about the comic Cloudscratchers by Cody Baier. The comic started in May 2012, and the story in a nutshell is about the struggles of a group of freedom fighters against the Margrave Empire. Now I know I very simplified the story, and again I tried not to spoil too much about the stories of the comics I introduced you to, and in this case this is a war story, but not in a way you might think. It's not your typical war story in so many ways. So yeah, I would definitely recommend to experience this one on your own, and if you don't have problems with these kinds of war stories, let's put it this way. But yeah, it's a very interesting one with a lot of interesting setups and also very interesting ways the story is handled. But some parts I will talk about in a minute. So yeah, what did I mean when I say this one pushed a lot of nostalgia buttons for me? Now, when I first read the synopsis of this comic, the first time why I was interested in to read it was because the setting, the setting is placed mostly in the sky with airships, planes, zeppelins, and cities that are built above the clouds. Now, I'm personally not that fan of planes or something like that, but I love these alternate history settings or universes where there are still zeppelins, not only for small tours or something, but really they are used like planes in so many ways. I just love these kind of partially steampunk like or diesel punk like storylines. And also, I'm a big sucker of dogfights. I just love the idea of that, and yeah, this was the first reason why I was interested in this one. And again, I'm a big fan of such series like Crimson Skies or something. I really love playing these games, and so yeah, it was a no-brainer for me to try out this or read this comic. And the second part, why I really started these nostalgic feelings, was when I first saw the artwork of the old comic. It reminds me a lot of the old comics with that from my youth, or let's say it this way, mostly not over styled, but just simplified, just to have fun with it, and just go with the story and go with the characters, just concentrating on the very important parts, and not of how much cloudy or how much lens flare or something like that you have to see, how much details. Just really the simple things. Just keep it simple, and just concentrate and focus on the main part. And this was the second part why I really wanted to read this story, because it's, like I said, it was a nostalgic trip for me. And before I say, I'm not saying the art is bad. Au contraire, the art is really great, and it's also the way the art is, or the evolution of his art style in this case. Because even if he keeps the art very simple, the amount of details he puts in this is. Again, it's astonishing. I really love the whole design ideas. I love the world. Really, the art is really great. It's very refreshing to see something like this than the overall try to digitize three-dimensional things you can see overall. So yeah, again, great work on this one. The next part I really loved about Cloudscratchers, and this one I found really interesting, because this was after, or let's say this way, while I was trying to get a little bit more information about the comic, I read something he wrote in the FAQ part, and I have to say he nailed it nearly 100%, because, or let's say it this way: when you start reading this one, you have the feeling you're reading something like an old Disney cartoon, or like these Saturday morning cartoons, and he really nailed it. He says his inspiration are these old Disney cartoons, these old or the early Don Bluth cartoons, and the feel of or the way the humor, the story, the characters, the overall world functions. He nailed it. Like I said, you start reading it. If you don't have if you don't have this in your head that this was inspiration for him and he loved these things, you wouldn't think about it. You would immediately say, and like I said, this was the first thing I thought about it when after reading nearly 50 to 60 pages of the comic, I had this feeling. This is just like, this could be something that that just you could have viewed or seen in television to these times in the 90s or something like that. It's really great writing, and when, like I said, I really enjoyed the way the story goes and the way the characters interact with it, because normally when you have these kind of stories that try to not to focus too much on violence and keep it clean, let's say this way, and try to go a more serious story, because let's face it, Cloudscratchers, even if it has an innocent look, has a very serious storyline, and there are very dark parts in this story, but not in a way that the parts are shown. Let's put it this way: we have a war scenario, and we see a lot of this, especially from the bad guys' side, but mostly these are things that are playing in your head because we don't see them. Really fantastic work on this front, because it's always, he keeps everything clean, but when you see it, you know what's happening, you have an idea what's going on, and an amazing job, because this is again something I know many writers and artists struggle, how to create something clean and safe for everyone, but make it in a serious part, but without showing them, and so that people who know what's going on have a clear idea, but the people who are not, or let's say it more, the younger audience, let's put it this way: if younger audience sees this, never have these very violent images in their head. And again, I'm really fascinated how he's doing it, because this comic isn't short. Like I said, it started in May 2012, so it's over 5 years now, and we have a lot of chapters in there, and there are very interesting parts in there. I can give you just one example what I mean. We have very early in the beginning, there's a scene where the Empire starts a raid, or has a raid on the transport zeppelin, and the last commando that's given is to show them how they're doing, and don't take or that there shouldn't be survivors. Not in the sense I'm saying it, like I said, kept clean. And the only thing you see is the pilot of Zeppelin, who's looking out of the window while an attack plane is attacking, in this case, the cockpit. And yeah, you have an idea what's happening, but again, not in the sense that you are seeing what's happening. You see the result, but nothing else, and the result is just you seeing the Zeppelin going down. Yeah, it's a very interesting experience, and I really like this comic for that. And it's there's even a lot more. Like I said, the way the characters interact is also something I enjoy, because we don't have this. Or let's say we have a big roster of characters, and people who've seen my videos know that I have a big problem. The bigger the more characters we have, because how to put a focus on, or how do we focus on one specific part, or a specific main part of the characters that we should follow? Again, he does a really great job balancing this, and I'm not meaning balancing it only on our hero characters, but also on the bad guys in some case. We see both sides, and he gives a lot of time for both sides, so that we know each character individually in some way, how they work, what they're thinking, who they are, and never felt like it's just a quick he just just wants to do it. It's always feeling natural, the way when the characters are talking about or speaking about something, we always have the feeling this is something that has to be spoken about now, and not it's just there to continue the story. It's really interesting, because this is also the way we learn about the main characters in the beginning of the comic, because it's not just we are now talking about them and we are only giving parts of them, and when something new has happened, then we can follow up with something else. So we are starting to learn more and more about the history of every character in some way, but not in the way that we are just here and now telling you that's why this is happening, or this is why the character is acting this way, or this is the backstory of this character, like so many others want to tell us that when a new character comes on, now here's his bio, now read that, and after that we don't speak again about this. It's a great read. Again, I really love this, that he takes the time for the characters to develop and even the story to develop. And it's not the and like I said, it's not the overall you don't have the feeling that's everything is happy-go-lucky. It's always there are parts that are really positive, and there are parts that are negative, and it's really, I really love it how he's keeping the balance of this. And like I said, it's a war story, and this makes it even more interesting and more great to read, because it's not this we have these freedom fighters who always win, and it's, again, I don't want to talk about too much about the story, because there's a lot more, and I'm trying to just focus on the first part, because there's a lot more coming on. And so definitely something. If you, or let's say this way, it's a big recommendation if you're interested in these kinds of Crimson Sky storylines. If you're interested in these kinds of, or if you like these old Disney cartoons, or if you're interested in these alternate storylines with Zeppelins and so on, and these kind of war stories, it's definitely, I would recommend reading this one in so many ways. Two things I would say could possibly put some people off, and I think they would be wrong for that. The first thing is, again, we have a comic where we don't have, or we have humanized animals, and so on in this case. And I know a lot of people are saying, this is shit, why do we have this is a furry comic and so on. People, think about it. Most of you who say some things like that, just remember what your favorite or what some of your favorite cartoons is, and I'm 100% sure that some of you say at least one or two old Disney classic films. And then think again, it's not, you don't need humans or something to show a big, deep storyline. No, it doesn't matter what kind of characters you have there. It depends on, are the characters believable, is the story believable? And both, yes, in this case. And if you think just because the characters are animals or have animal traits, and you don't want to read it, it's your loss, because you're really letting a really good story and a really good comic go to waste because of this ignorant thinking. But yeah, this is, again, it's not everyone. Like I said, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's definitely a very big comic, a very great read in so many cases. And the second thing, this was something that nearly put me off at first, but this has a specific reason. The two poster characters of this comic, when you read when you open the pages, this is Felix and Ixia, and these are the two youngest members of the group. And one thing I have problems with. I'm going all out. I really I'm open with this one because mostly it doesn't work for me. Or if you have kid-like characters in or focus on kid characters. Let's say it this way, because mostly when you write, well, most writers who try to write a story where you have a focus on kid characters, they try to overdo it. Let's say this way. Mostly you have this feeling you are writing a kid character like an adult sees it, and not like a kid character should react in so many ways, or could react in so many ways. And I was, like I said, this is something I have always a little bit problem, and I'm always a little bit put off. But I try it out, and again, I love both characters. It never felt, again, I never felt wrong. I really love these two when they are together. I love when they're with the other characters. The way they're really connecting to some of these of the rest of the crew. They're never seen as, let's say, kid characters that people should keep behind or something. They're active crew members, and that I really love the idea. I love the idea that Felix is a absolute genius mechanic, and that people that they see him as this really independent mechanic, that he knows he has this genius to do that. It never felt wrong in so many ways. So yeah, I really like these two characters. And if you think kicked characters aren't real, or child characters couldn't be written great or good in so many ways, read this one. You will be surprised how these characters are written, and even the parts where you think they lose it won't happen. There are 1-2 parts where I thought, I'm not sure where this is going, but these things aren't here. There aren't these small parts where they fall into it, or let's say it this way, these pits where they fall into it. It really works out. Definitive. It's a big recommendation. I know I'm a little bit vague in some cases, but this is, again, it's a comic that's focused mainly on the characters, mainly on the story, and it would be sad to spoil everything for you. So definitely check it out. And as always, if you're interested in supporting the artist behind it, there's the way of his Patreon. You can I will leave a link down below. You can buy the first book of it. Also, we'll leave a link down below, or leave a comment, vote for him, use everything you can think of to support him. And like always, hope you had fun watching this one. Hope you will try it out, and see you next episode. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.